And Commissioners, you are live.
Okay. It is 8:30. I call this January 29th meeting of the Riley County Commission to order. Early joining in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, good morning. Last Monday of the month. Can't believe January's gone already. And the sun came out over the weekend.
Yay.
Woo. I was at home doing something and all of a sudden it got awfully bright and I thought, did the lights come out?
Towards the end of the day.
Looked out the blinds. I'm like, oh man, sun came out. Nice.
What is that? Shiny thing up in the sky.
Yeah, I almost forgot what it looked like and what it does and what it's supposed to do. Anyway, hopefully it stays out for a while. So it looks like it's going to.
It was pretty,
It's still the end of the week.
pretty frosty.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when it gets up to the 50s and then works back down into the 20s. I guess we're still not out of winter yet. So. Okay, well, with that said, we'll start off with some public comments this morning. See Elizabeth up there. I don't know if she's got any comments or not. Anybody in chambers? No? Nothing? Oh, boy.
Guess what? Like to ask for an executive session at 9 o'clock, during my admin time, please.
Pat?
Move we had executive session at Clancy Holman's time at 9 o'clock.
I would second that.
It's been moved and seconded to add a executive session to Clancy Holman's administrative work session time. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Seeing no more public comments then, I'm going to close that off and we'll move on to condition comments and Commissioner McKinley.
All right, well, reviewed a lot of information for today's meetings over the weekend. Attended the K-State women's game, it's a lot closer than it was supposed to be, but they continue their winning ways. A lot of other ranked teams haven't learned able to do that this year. And then Chiefs are in the Super Bowl again. Kind of provides the end of the year now.
Yeah, no.
That's all I got.
Okay.
Commissioner Hogan.
Well, Thursday evening, I helped serve at the community meal at First Lutheran Church. Numbers of people attending us are pretty stable and fairly high. We served about 93 people. So it's a lot of food too. Common Table held a community meeting on Saturday and took a lot of suggestions from the public on how to move forward in having one location. I don't know how that's going to go. So Friday, I met with Julie Gibbs at the health department. They're doing pretty well with a little slower month in January, and she'll be in for their month report. I think she said this week. Saturday evening, I attended Representative Sidney Carlin's annual Kansas Day celebration event. It was held at the Senior Center. Linda Morris was the honored guest, so there were a lot of people that got up and spoke about their experiences with her over the many years of public service. A lot of tributes. So. The event was really well attended with all the tables filled, so it was a lot of fun to see a lot of people that I hadn't seen in a while. This weekend, I read all the paperwork, reviewed everything I could for today's meeting, and caught up with chores around the house. So.
Okay. Well, as for me, Thursday afternoon, I was up on Fort Riley with Major General John Meyer and Deputy Command Sergeant Daniel Noyce. The Fort Riley Soldier Recognition Ceremony that took place at Victory Hall. It's great to see all the soldiers and the civilian personnel get recognized and rewarded for their hard work and effort throughout 2023 and beyond. I think this is something Fort Riley does every year. Obviously, COVID withstanding, but they do an amazing job at recognizing everybody and for all the things that they do throughout the working year. So hopefully that's something they continue to do moving forward as well. Thursday evening, I attended the Hooray Thursday event hosted by HYPE, which is an acronym standing for Helping Young Professionals Emerge, and the established business leaders at Rock and K's up at K-State campus. It's great to see a lot of our young community professionals out in force and to just get a chance to network and dialogue with them and see what they're up to, what they're working on, what they're thinking, and what challenges are emerging for them in real time. Also want to give a shout out to the Greater Manhattan Community Foundation for taking the time and the resources to host the event. It was pretty fun and also rather informative just to catch up with everybody. Friday morning, I met with Mike Madsen, Public Affairs Director with the Manhattan Area Chamber of Commerce at McAllister's. Discussed a few items, including county comprehensive and strategic planning, some legislative items and bills that we're kind of both paying attention to and tracking at the moment. We also spent some time tracking and discussing some regional needs and challenges, including childcare and housing, and some options that are being discussed to possibly solve them. Good dialogue. We'll probably be following back up at somewhere down the road on several of those items, I'm pretty sure. Don't know if his ears were burning from our conversations with WTC, but I did meet with Scott Leitzel from Twin Valley Telephone. He called me that same Thursday afternoon after we had that discussion. He said nobody was watching or listening. His ears weren't burning, but it's really that time of the year where the Office of Broadband, Rural Broadband Technology is putting out all those, the rest of those grants, so everything's moving pretty quickly. He wanted to touch bases with me on some work that they're going to be doing out in and around the Keats area. And they are trying to work on getting permanent fiber in and around the area using some grants. He'll be working on putting together that presentation at some point in time here. As soon as he gets it to me, I'll make sure each one of you gets that, so it's ahead of time. I don't know what the grant's going to look like just yet. There will probably be a need for a letter of support and some work on that, but we'll have a little bit of a window of opportunity here, but tell them the sooner the better on that when we get to it. So we'll be working on it shortly. And like I said, when I get the information, I'll make sure everybody gets caught up in a pretty reasonable amount of time. And it's something they need to present in person. We'll get it on the agenda. So we had a really good dialogue about that. I think their vision for what they're trying to do is good, and we'll do what we can. I assured him to work with them to make that process work. So, yeah, congratulations to Chiefs for winning back-to-back AFC championships. That mountain seemed almost impossible to climb this year, but they did. Fourth Super Bowl in 5 years.
Yeah.
Only the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots have done that. In NFL history. So win, lose, or draw, at least they got that thing in their hat. So I'm sure there's a lot of people in Kansas City who are not going to work this morning. And maybe again 2 Mondays from now, we'll see. Did watch bits and pieces of that girls basketball game while doing some stuff too. Was BYU good? I didn't. Okay.
That was the worst team I've seen them play.
Okay, but they won.
I don't know what the problem was,
So-
but they still, like I say, playing as bad as they did, they still won. So
If I was counting right, that's 14 in a row. That runs their record to 20-1. They're number 2 in the poll and number 4 in the other. South Carolina came back and won, so didn't really make up any ground there. So I guess as mentioned, today is Kansas Day. So 163 years ago in the state, we were admitted as the 34th state, where we're becoming known as the Sunflower State. We all know that, but some people around the country don't. Suddenly just kind of over the top of this. That's fine with me for the most part. So anyway, that's all I got this morning. So we can go ahead and move right along to some business.
Sounds good. First item, I need commissioners on motion to approve letter of support for the city of Ogden's grant application for the Safe Streets Roads for All.
I make a motion to approve and sign the letter for Ogden's grant application for safe streets and roads for all.
second,
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to sign the grant application for safe streets and roads for all for the city of Ogden. All in favor?
Aye.
All three sign, please.
Uh-oh. Okay. Well, I got, but it's not the same color. You got a blue one?
I don't know if that's blue.
Goodness. Didn't look that close to being it. This one's going out too.
It must be bad luck on pens today.
Yeah,
You killed my pen.
sorry.
Does it cross line?
I know where to get more. I know where to get more.
I didn't mean to do it. No, it's kind of, yes,
Coming back.
no,
Little blue one.
I like blue better.
Try it. I didn't try it, but it looks like it's got lots of ink.
School pens.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thing nice
Can't
about
do it
these
in
is
red, it's gotta be in black.
you can,
Government
recent-
says so.
Uh-huh. Right.
got some at home.
That was my second grade teacher. She's not here anymore, so we're okay.
What was she saying? I'm sorry.
You missed it. Too bad. So
Oh.
sad.
That's what, for a long time, for a while, the things you had to sign in blue ink, because this is that way, it wasn't a copy, but that copies, machines are so good.
Oh, no, that's why I used to do it, because you could tell, what was and wasn't. And then once they got color copiers, you can't tell.
Yeah,
It's like, what the heck?
Is that
But
like
it
federal
was-
court too?
we did a lot of work and all those things. We had to make sure you had a blue pen.
See, I'm
And
gonna
at
believe
one
that you
point-
could do those with stamps too, but
Like I say, at one point, they
We do.
figured out that it-
Next, commission need a motion to approve CIP funding authorization form for courthouse and health department elevator modernization project with Public Works Facilities Department, the amount of $385,000.
so did this override the one we approved last week?
No, it's in addition to.
There's a couple.
That was 195. Full sign.
This is the cost for just these two, and what was that other cost? 220?
220.
220.
Yeah, court.
Altogether, I remember there were over
Well, I
500.
thought we were just adding health department.
Mm.
Talk about that in both.
Yeah, we're gonna do both of them.
Oh, okay.
Keep it.
But we can do whatever you guys would like.
That's why that's why the number, I thought we were just adding.
No.
That's this. Okay, no, it's good. Go ahead and get the whole thing, get it all over with.
The
But it is
court,
technically-
court is spelled wrong. There's a H on the end of it. And also it should say elevators rather than elevator.
On the form?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. See that? Course?
court, courthouse.
I made him skip lunch to do it, so.
She was pressuring him. She was pressuring him. She may look nice, but behind closed doors, she gets after people.
I guess it was Mike Tyson who was filling that out.
Of course,
Okay, well, I would
Believe it or not, I even fixed something.
Keyword being some.
yeah. Okay, well, I move to approve the CI project 2424 PW 001 as presented.
I would second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve CIP project 24-24 PW 001. All in favor?
Aye.
Sure, please sign. Any changes to minutes, commissioners?
Okay.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of January 25th, 2024 as presented.
Second,
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the January 25th meeting of the Riley County Commission as written. All in favor?
Aye.
Tentative agendas, look, commissioners. Any items for next week's press conference? If not, you have Mr. Holman at 9 o'clock for an executive session. Yeah, I would have never have guessed, even towards the end of the season, that this Chiefs team would make it to the Super Bowl.
We got a lot of good stuff. Probably you don't need it. If you don't need it, you can throw it away.
Okay. I'll take this.
I think I got one time before it was tossed. Well, I think so.
I think we're getting this or something.
Yeah.
Ben didn't fare so well.
Man, that was rough.
Well, did you watch the Iowa State KU game?
I did, actually, I caught the last.
Who won that?
Iowa State.
Yeah,
At Iowa State?
Yeah.
What was that score?
and they were up by as many as 13 and KU came back and
We got
Tied it.
close and then they came out at 5 or 6 points.
Yeah.
I think, but Iowa State was in control most of the game.
It's always been a tough place to play. I don't know what it is about. They say,
Hilton Magic.
and you wonder about that because it is. It's like, what the heck? And that curse is put on that place for visitors.
Well, we went to the first second year it opened, they had the Midwest Regional up there. We played there. Which was right up. I think that's the year Louisville. They ended up winning it all, but that's what beat us.
Mhm. Be curious to see how they rebound this week. When do they play? The men.
Tuesday,
Tuesday or Wednesday.
I think, what?
Play Oklahoma, then Oklahoma State, right?
And the one, both men and women playing Oklahoma, but men are held, women are the first game this week. Yeah, Wednesday, 5 starting last week, 5 out of 6 games were against ranked teams.
Yeah, it's just a tough week to schedule.
Big 12, big tough this year.
If anything, we're playing a lot of the freshmen.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't benefit us this year. It will down the road.
Yeah, if it's the hell.
Yeah, I know. Don't get me started on that topic.
Yeah. That's.
John, did you see the Seco price tag get a little higher?
A little. We have to wait another couple of years. It looks like.
We've got a couple of years, doesn't have years on the tag.
Yeah, I know. But I think that whole pickleball question got settled pretty quickly.
And I don't think you'll see 12 tennis courts anymore.
No.
Well, and also here at the end of that sport, they said because Manhattan High uses the baseball and softball fields, and they say might start charging. That was one of the solutions.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
I did not hear that either. We sure struggle with that part.
Wait a minute. Let's change the.
When they gonna figure out what to do with our super up there, Greg?
No, and that's what gets me is how quiet it's like. Nobody knows what's really going on.
Mhm.
I mean, it's pretty even split on board.
Mhm. Which seems odd.
Yeah.
That's odd. You know, usually you take that drastic action. It's there's something pretty obvious. So
Yeah. No, that's. Heard some stories. Yeah.
mhm.
But nothing about this. I've he's left some other places too.
Mhm. Mhm.
Have some thoughts on it, but not for public consumption.
I found a new jacket for me. I can get one out of his catalog that has Cardinals on St. Louis Cardinals.
I'd be much better off with that.
Yeah, I can't believe you know.
I do. Just get the right logo on it. If they're still cutting you a check, then wear that one.
Every once in a while, they do consulting work.
Yeah.
Just start. I think that happens.
I don't think the Chiefs and the Ravens liked each other too much.
Oh,
Did you see before the game? Mahomes and Kelsey kept going over there and
But their
taking the
kicker,
kickers.
their kicker was trying to kick in between.
Yeah. I was wondering why he was so bad and upset. Now I know why. It was pretty.
what were they
stupid to
doing? I
do.
didn't see them.
They got a little holder thing where the kicker will put the
Yeah.
ball on there and kick. And when he wasn't looking, they kept stealing it and trying to move it. He's like,
Well, they
Really?
threw the footballs off the side because he was trying to kick it right in the middle of where the
Chiefs were warming
Chiefs were
up.
warming
Oh, is that what?
So they were tossing that.
I think that's a big part of what helped us. I mean, we kind of got in our heads early.
It was funny that who was number 50 Ravens, he and Kelsey were going at it a few times. And after the game, they were standing there talking to each other. It's, when they showed the crowd, they walked up to each other
I
talking.
didn't see
it
that.
goes back to the time when Van Noy played for the Patriots.
Oh,
Yeah. They've been at it for years.
Man, but they seem to be talking, you know,
That safety of theirs is good. I like that guy.
Kyle Hamilton, yeah.
holy cow. Oh, that one series for all three plays, he made the tackle.
Jeez, that guy's good.
Stop.
He had a nose for the ball and the
Yeah.
speed to get there.
Yeah.
And he's good dimensions. He's like 6'2". Yeah,
he
he's
was-
good.
He was, oh,
Matter
it
of
seemed
fact-
like no matter where it was.
Kelsey's catch is the only one that's got by him all year.
And it was
That
contested.
Touchdown.
That was contested.
Oh, yeah, he was there.
Yeah.
You could have defended it much better. I mean, a little bit, but yeah.
Guess if you moved your arm one way or the other, you might have knocked it out.
Well, and just thank goodness it was thrown as low as it was, so
Yeah.
he couldn't get to it. But for Kelsey to catch it, that was a hard catch.
Yeah.
Like Travis Kelsey Swift.
I couldn't believe that.
That's what I call it now.
That long, that, to seal the game there, that long pass, so that, but
He was falling
Falling
down
over
when he
backwards.
caught that.
all over backwards. So long.
That was unreal.
Or the one where Jackson threw it and tipped it and caught it himself.
Pretty crazy.
I thought for a second he was gone.
That guy
I thought for a
is,
second he was gone.
that guy is an athlete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just don't have the right weapons around you. That's really what it is.
And
It's just
athlete. Well, and like they say, though, I mean, give our secondaries some credit. Those guys, as they were saying, are sticky. You know, the
Because
offense,
he looked, the quarterback looked aggressive, running back and forth, trying to get it, but because our defense, the backs were
You
holding
know,
those guys
the
down.
offense, the wide receiver always has the advantage because they know where they're going. To stick that close to wide receivers that consistently is tough.
That's gonna be the advantage in the Super Bowl too.
Let's hope.
San Francisco was really wild. They were really doing well. And it's like,
It's an all Big 12 quarterback Super Bowl.
It is. That's true. I never thought of that.
I've seen both of them play here.
I never thought of that.
So Brock Purdy and Patrick Mahomes play, you know.
I didn't know Mahomes did.
Texas Tech.
Texas Tech. Mhm.
Oh, and
Saw him play here in 16. Saw him throw that pick six against DJ Reed on the north side of the field.
We beat him, but
I kept thinking in the game, I'm like, who's this kid they're talking about for Texas Tech? I mean, it just didn't seem like much. And then you went back and looked at the stat line. He was like 38 for 52.
well, they're
400 yards and 4 touchdowns. and
Spring a guy.
interception.
They
I'm
throw the
like,
ball like
he's
crazy.
pretty good.
Most of them got to the pros and then.
Well, that was Leach's system. He just had a system developed where the quarterback could throw it to a spot and the receivers always, it was just
Well,
amazing.
that wasn't even under Leach. That was under Kingsbury.
Oh, was he under
Yeah.
Kingsbury?
But Kingsbury was under Leach, so you
Yeah.
can indirectly say the same.
It was
thing.
unreal. Some of the passes they would make. And catches.
But I think that they never had that defense to go with it. They didn't win. I mean, they didn't win, but they didn't win big. It's
That night we won 42-38 or something. It was a high school game.
Yeah, I know that game. I knew we wouldn't be able to keep up with them, and we did. I couldn't believe it.
That's because that pick six. Most DJ Reed's playing for the Jets, I think, at the moment. Jets or Giants or somebody.
Where's Purdy's brother playing at? He's got a brother playing somewhere.
SMU.
College. Quarterback to
Yeah.
college.
He's just transferred.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like his story being Mr. Irrelevant and
Yeah.
showing everyone.
That's
Also,
what they were saying, that it was the first matchup between a number 1 pick and a last pick in the draft for the champion.
and I also like the Lions quarterback story last week, getting traded from that team and then beating them the next year.
Lions are gonna be good. I don't think we've heard the last of it yet. They left, they left 6 points on the field. They really shouldn't have, so. Fancy? You left go.
This executive session.
Just the executive session.
I moved the camp. I moved the county commission, including Chairman of the board, Vice Chairman McKinley, and Commissioner Koki, recess into executive session on potential litigation for the purpose of consultation with Clancy Holman, County Councilor, and Shelley Woodard, deputy county councilor, attorneys for the commission, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship, an exception to the Kansas Open Meetings Act. Open meeting resumed in the county chambers at 9:20.
I would second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that the Board of County Commissioners recess to the session until 9:20 a.m. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
We are back.
Well, you're going through my reinforcements.
Oh, yeah, I'm already up in this third one here. Oh, I pulled this off of there, one of them.
Just
Sorry.
I move to kick the Board of County Commissioners come out of executive session.
I would second that.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of County Commissioners come out of executive session. All in favor?
Aye.
Further, I move the record reflect action should be taken consistent with the consensus reached in executive session.
I would second that.
Been moved and seconded that the record shall reflect the action shall be taken consistent with the consensus reached in executive session. All in favor?
Aye. Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay.
I love you.
Okay. We are at 9:21. That goes back to you. And yeah, Amanda, you're good to go.
I didn't notice that. That's your morning. Morning, Commissioners, Amanda Webb, Planning Director. Darren Hobbs, our planning compliance specialist, and I are here with the annual recertification for the National Flood Insurance Program, the NFIP, that's the place to call it. Our community rating system, community classification. This is a requirement that we, this is a requirement that we have to do every year again to recertify to keep our certification. Right now, we're at a classification of 9. That saves our, I believe it's 5%, 5% on flood insurance premiums. That's a savings for our residents. And so we do our variety of activities over the year, public outreach, mapping, regulations, warning response, all of that different sort of stuff. And we gain activity points with the recertification program. And so we've done what we need to do to maintain our classification of 9. So now we just have to finalize everything and have you sign the documents that are in your packet, which is certifying to such. And we need to get that in by February 1st, and we can keep our certification. It's just the standard thing we do every year, so nothing terribly different. I'm not sure when our one major certification happens. There are times every X amount of years we do a more major update, if you will, just providing more information. This is just one of our regular certifications. Every 5 years, thank you.
Okay.
I would make a motion then to authorize the chairman to sign the recertification letter for the National Flood Insurance Program Community Rating System.
A second.
We moved to second to authorize the chairman to sign the recertification letter for the National Flood Insurance Program's Community Rating Systems. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair, please sign.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Amanda. Next, Commissioners, press conference at 9:30.
You have a copy of the letter. Does that letter get sent out? The letter that gets sent out to residents, is that every year that gets sent out?
Yes, send that annually
That we get-
to our repetitive loss.
Oh, the ones that are down with the worst parts. I don't know if they went every year or not.
It does, yeah, we do that. Just to give them a reminder and just some tips.
Thank you. Next, Commissioner, you have press conference at 9:30.
We can see. On that house bill that I testified at, but it's 2036.
2036.
How do I find out what happened? Get waited this, but you just need to keep looking at that committee or.
Well, you can go, to see any kind of formal action on it, you're gonna go, probably just still go to the legislative website and then go to that particular bill. And
Okay.
it'll tell you where it is, in what committee, And then you can go to the committee, go up to the committee section, different deal you click on, and it should show you what's on their calendar.
Oh,
But things are moving so fast that it's tough. I mean, you can see something that's sitting there.
that is what, if they ever have, if they schedule a vote on that, just.
Well, they'll just, when they work it is when they're gonna actually vote on it. And, or when they might vote on it, see if it goes out of committee, and they're approaching turnaround, they're getting close to that. So things are gonna be moving fast. Best way to find out is for me to just ask ask Don, have him track it down, because he can find whatever calendar's out there, even if it's not necessarily on the website.
I just wanted to look, what the.
Let me find out.
Waiting,
I'll let everybody know.
whether they've actually taken a vote on it.
Sure. I'll check.
Contact Lucia. That's true. What's going on? She's still new up there. She probably doesn't.
I don't know.
I mean, I know, I'm not. But, you know, I'm
Always possible, but
trying to keep track of that stuff's gotta be daunting.
I think so.
Do you need all this back to you?
Was it from today or?
Well, it's from whenever we.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll put it in. Sure.
And yes.
Come on, Greg. Good luck. Morning.
Haven't got those to you, but I have now.
Oh, okay.
Yay.
And we're official.
We're official. Signed
I
everything.
still haven't, I know I still haven't signed up on lock. I keep getting the stuff and looking at time and stuff, but I haven't never actually filled out whatever that calendar is or.
We can help you if you need it.
Like, it isn't that I don't know how to do it, it's just I haven't got, I looked at it, I haven't ever gotten around to it.
Cannot believe our Chiefs made it to the Super Bowl the way they played this year.
They didn't deserve
It's
it.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like the hat.
Thank you. Sold.
So am I.
You know, there's a hat out there with Super Bowl IV on it somewhere.
Nice.
That one's really old.
Valuable if you can find it.
It's true. Very true.
Well, Greg, if the fog is any true indication, we could have a very wet spring, early summer.
Yeah, hope we can get our school gardens planted.
I want to plant rice if it all comes true.
We'll see if that holds true.
Yeah, it's been so dry out in our area for so long. I will not chase it away. Creek is finally running again.
Oh.
Finally. I should have documented when it quit, but it's been a long time.
What creek are you on?
It is
Well, Mill
30, so go ahead, Greg.
All right.
You're not the only one who does that, too. So don't worry about it.
Good morning, Commissioners. Happy New Year. We got a few gardening programs coming up here in February. One to highlight. First one will start on Thursday. This Thursday, it's our home landscape class. We do that in conjunction with UFM Learning Center, so you sign up with them.
It starts at 6:30 Thursday evening. We have a few spots open, so if anybody's interested in doing a home landscape design, process anyway, whether they can accomplish it, hopefully they can, but that'll be starting this Thursday. Also, our reminder of our K-State garden hours that K-State puts on every Wednesday of the month, first Wednesday of the month. This one coming up on February 7th will be on gardening with climate change. Dr. Chuck Rice will be presenting that program, and so those are available online. Sign up for K-State Garden Hour, and they're recorded, so if you can't do it over the noon hour when they're offered, you can go back and check it out later. We'll have a pruning program coming up on February 10th. That will be at Bluefield Nursery, so that's a Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Talking about pruning shrubs, mostly some trees. We'll get into tall trees. That's probably better for a professional to do. But we'll talk about pruning, and it's something that probably needs done on a routine basis, just to have our plants performing the best, whether it's your flower production you're wanting or just keeping them healthy. So that's pretty important to do. Also, coming up, we have we're starting back. The Riley County Extension Master Gardeners used to do Knowledge at Noon. So the lunch hour, a live presentation versus the online presentation that K-State does. First one this season is going to be on February 12th. That's a Monday. It's going to be on vegetable gardening, and our resident retired vegetable specialist, Dr. Chuck Marr, is willing to present that. So he's got a little bit of knowledge, 60 years or whatever, that he will share with us. So if anybody wants to come out for kind of a Knowledge at Noon, it's at Pardog Hall. And when you bring your lunch, or if you just want to spend the hour with us, that would be great. So again, Riley County Master Gardeners will have 4 of those this season, and that's the first one on February. February 18th will be the Manhattan area seed swap, something that's kind of new. Going to try and bring some seeds and swap and get some different ones to try out. This is at the Discovery Center on February 18th from 1 to 4. And Master Gardeners will be there also to answer some gardening questions. If you don't have seeds, this is our first year to try it, so people may not have seeds around, but you can come and get some and have some good conversations about growing plants for this year. Lastly, today at 3:30 will be Greg McClure's retirement reception out at Pardog. So come on out 3:30 to 5:30 if you want to wish Greg McClure a happy retirement. His last day is actually, I think, Wednesday, but today is our celebration. So that pretty much wraps up February. We'll be back to we start thinking about March.
Guess that officially makes you the last Greg Mick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody should get that email wrong anymore, right? Thank you, Greg.
You're welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners. Rich Barger, Riley County Clerk. I want to remind everyone of the upcoming presidential preference primary coming up March 19th. There's a lot of deadlines, of course, with each and every election. February 20th is the last day to register to vote for this election if you are not already registered, and the last day to request a ballot by mail. This is atypical, not like most elections. Typically, with most elections, you can request a ballot by mail a little bit longer, but on this one, you cannot. The deadline is February 28th. Advanced voting by mail and those advanced ballots by mail will be sent out on February 28th. Of course, advanced voting closes by state law on Monday before the election at noon. All the polling places in Riley County will be open. Advanced voting will be at 110 Courthouse Plaza, just like always on the second floor. Anyone has any questions, go out to our website. We have a ton of election information on our website. This complete calendar that I'm reading off of, all of those dates are on there as well. But of course, if you have any questions, give us a call. We'll be glad to answer them. 785-537-6300. And you can also find out your voter information on our website as to where your polling place is, a map of your polling place, and all the various hours for the services that we have for advanced voting. Any questions?
Just for information for the public, this is a partisan election.
It is partisan election.
Okay.
There are four candidates for each party, the Democrat and the Republican Party. Each has 4 candidates. Any other questions? First one since 1992. Historic event, so we will see how it goes. How it goes in the future, we'll continue to have these.
Do the roughly 1/3 of independent registered voters get to vote in this?
If they want to affiliate,
That's the key.
that's the key with partisan elections.
What is do you have an estimate of what this is gonna cost us to do this extra election?
For at one point in time, for the entire state, the state is supposedly going to reimburse us direct cost for that, so. we will
Last
see.
cost I heard was 4.8 million. For the whole state,
For the whole state.
for the whole state.
And what everyone has to remember, and keeping taxes low, that is something that we have not had to pay for since 1992. So presidential preference election, these presidential preference primaries are always a political party endeavor. The political parties typically run them. And so that is not happening this time. So that is an added tax burden to taxpayers, 4.8 million across the state.
So these are national mandates or
No.
state
not a national
mandates.
mandate. States
Okay,
can
state
determine whether that will
mandates.
happen or not.
Oh, that's interesting.
More than likely, by the time we get to March. Let's face it, it's gonna be pretty well decided. You're gonna be
It's
down to
already.
2 candidates. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, but I think that's why Kansas in the past has always taken that
Yeah.
approach previously. But yeah, there was at the Kansas state legislative level, there was the want to have this, so kind of interesting.
Well, as far as the rules on putting up political signs, is that the same for this as it is for the primaries?
Yeah, those are all run by state laws and city laws. City of Manhattan, of course, City of the First Class has their own ordinance on
Mhm.
political signs, and so they're in charge of that, the majority of them around here.
I didn't know if it was the same for this election as it is for the others.
Yeah, it will be.
Yeah.
45 days, I think, in the city
Yeah,
for the election.
but you'd have to be a registered candidate in general, wouldn't you?
Do what?
You have to be a registered candidate
What do you mean registered candidate? For what?
for presidential. I mean, if you were a registered candidate in another race this year, that wouldn't count, right?
Right, correct.
okay.
Yeah, right.
Like
The
if you're
only-
running for a house seat or
right,
something.
the only candidates,
You can't be
yeah.
in, you aren't in there.
So that's
Only the
yards.
viable candidates for that election can post signs.
So I guess my point would be almost kind of pointless. Put out yard signs for this. mess.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. It'll be interesting. There's a lot of things about this election that are gonna be interesting to see, including participation and
I can't remember back to 92 on that one. That was the last election
Yeah,
I couldn't vote in legally.
yeah.
But
I think the participation for this presidential preference primary will be interesting as well as the general.
yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, commissioners. Next commissioner, you have Amanda Webb at 9:40. It's the Amanda Webb show today.
There are worse things.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, good morning again, Amanda Webb, Planning Director. I have our January comprehensive plan update report for you folks. I'm just gonna go through a few things, and as I was writing this report, it started to become, as you probably saw, become a little bit more about the community meeting we had out in Leonardville. So I'll cover the other parts and then we'll go to that, because there's a little bit more to talk about that one, so. The survey data, as you folks might remember, we closed that on the 1st of December with 687 responses. I did receive a stray hard copy in the mail about a week ago. And I am going to include it just because I know it was given out like months ago, so I will include it. And since they did go to the trouble of making sure we received it, so. We're still working on kind of compiling all of the open-ended responses from the survey data. Again, as I'm sure you can imagine, 687 open fields is a little bit difficult to compile together in a useful format. We've been trying out some different ways of doing so. We're thinking that the best method is to just purchase a one-time annual subscription of the Alchemer platform, which is the survey platform that was used for the original survey. The health department helped us with that one, so they were able to do it through theirs, but realistically, we're gonna need to have our own so we can evaluate the data and again, present it in a useful format that we can actually, again, incorporate into our plan and release to the public, and so it's sensible out there for folks. So I had wanted to do that in January. I still have 2.5 more days, so I'm gonna do my best. But really, as soon as I can get that out, again, it's all about wanting to make sure we compile it in a useful format. So when people are reviewing it, because again, it's gonna be out for you folks, and be out to the public to review. I want people to be able to review it in a useful manner, really, honestly, at the end of the day. So also, when we get the one-time subscription, the annual subscription, we'll be able to use it for this project still, because we'll probably have other things that we'll want them. Well, I don't want to say probably, we will have other things that we'll want the public's input on and kind of voting when we do some of the logos and the titles. That's all stuff that we want the public's input on, the public to kind of vote, if you will. So we're kind of envisioning using that platform to do that as well, those different sorts of things. So as we run through the project for the remainder of the year. So we'll definitely make use of that subscription. Again, gonna skip the public engagement section for now. We'll come back to it. Want to cover that. Comprehensive Plan Committee, our groups have continued to meet. Some have met a little bit more often than others, and that's okay. So the full committee is going to reconvene on February 13th in the afternoon out at Public Works Training Room, because I'm hoping we're going to have a large group of people there, because we have over 50 people on our committee. It's just want lots of space. So the intent for this meeting, did you have a question?
And how many people of that group's been attending those meetings as they've come up?
So the subcommittee meetings?
Yeah.
So not everybody from so we have over 50 people on our main committee, and not all of them are on subcommittees. It really just kind of depends. We usually at least have a handful at each group meeting.
Have you been tracking that by channel?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
I have that
I'd
information.
like to see the numbers on that if you can,
Yeah,
please. Okay.
Yeah, I kind of do a roster if
Okay,
you really
yeah,
just kind of
I'd like
track who's there.
I'd
but
like
not-
to see that.
Yeah, just
Okay.
I'd like to keep track of it too, just to know who's been there and who maybe I need to follow up with, that kind of thing. So yeah, definitely provide that information. So again, at the February 13th full committee meeting, I'll have each group be kind of provide an update as to what the groups have been doing over the last few months. As mentioned, some are a little bit further along than others, and that's okay. There's still plenty of time. And I want the leads to again, let the full group know what the conversations have been. Have they done any draft language? Some are that far, some aren't quite. But again, that's okay. Any themes that have been coming out of their conversations, et cetera. And then I'm hoping to have some input discussion amongst the larger group, because what I'm finding in some of our different groups, this group is talking about some of the same stuff as this group does. And that makes sense, right? We know that there's going to be some overlap. So I think having the larger group together and talking about those things and really start honing in on some draft goals and then building some language from there. So, and then we'll talk about the next steps as well. Branding, we've been talking a little bit about that. Then that's the logo, the title, the tagline, and those are items we're getting from our public input as well. So we're kind of compiling what some of the themes are we've been hearing, some of the keywords, those different sorts of things. Because our logo and our title and our tagline should basically match that. Of course, we want, to have that kind of be an overall representation of what we're hearing the best we can. So we're kind of trying to whittle down some of those options. Of course, those will be out for the public to review and vote on and select and input. And then, of course, you folks will have the final determination of the logo and what it'll be called and our little tagline and whatnot. So that'll be a process that'll take a little while, take at least a couple months probably to make sure we're getting that right. But you folks will definitely be involved and have that selection. So I'm going to go back up to the public engagement. Any questions before I get into this part?
We may have a little bit of a conversation on the timeline.
Sure. Yeah, and notice I'll come back to the timeline once we're done talking about public engagement, but I did put tentative on there, so.
I see that.
It's so, you can plan and plan and plan, and it's so hard to know what's actually, gonna happen. So, but I'm definitely happy to have conversations with anyone on that, so. So public engagement, as you folks remember, we had our own 11 community meetings that we did September through November of last year. We got all those done and got a lot of great input from folks. A few members from our agricultural land use subcommittee organized their own community meeting, which occurred in Leonardville on January 17th. Commissioner McKinley was in attendance. We appreciate that. The general idea of what they were wanting us to do was basically talk specifically about agricultural regulations, policies, goals that are currently in effect, basically, that we currently go by, we currently use, et cetera. We, of course, wanted to make sure that we also tied it to both the comprehensive plan and then the comprehensive plan update, so people can understand how all of that kind of fits together. So we put together a PowerPoint presentation that, again, went over all of our different regulations and then, again, the goals and policies within our current Vision 2025. We wanted to explain a lot of the flexibility in the code, both for showing that you are related to agriculture. So, because people often say, well, how is that house getting built? Or why do they have that? Or this, that, and the other. So we wanted to show how people get homes when it's in relation to an agricultural operation, what that procedure is about. But then there's ways to have homes on on agriculturally zoned piece of property that aren't related to agricultural use. And we have a whole set of options and criteria currently within our code that allows for those sorts of things. It's a whole review process, but we do have those considerations. So we wanted to talk through a lot of that with folks because we just find that a lot of people just aren't necessarily aware, and that's pretty cool. So we worked through all of that, and we received a lot of questions during the meeting, which was great. And then I also heard some additional concerns and comments expressed later on after the meeting, which was also just fine. Many questions had to do with property taxes and tax classification. It's pretty common that people don't necessarily understand that there's the difference that the appraiser's tax classification is completely different from your zoning district, your zoning classification. One doesn't, you would think it should, they should generally kind of match up, but they don't always necessarily, and that's just the different ways that we look at things. Neither is wrong, but your zoning classification or zoning district is what tells you what you can and can't do with this property. Planning and development and the comprehensive plan don't have anything to do with taxes. We can't change taxes in planning and development. We can't change a tax classification. We can only, again, we only impact, we only have anything to do with your zoning classification. And that's where all of our stuff falls in. So I know a lot of people are like, well, taxes are high. And that's fine, definitely not invalidating that comment, but there's nothing planning and development and comprehensive plan can do about that. So again, very, very common, not just in Riley County to hear those kinds of questions and concerns, but just an important distinction to make that one doesn't, your tax classification can't not allow something on your property. That's your zoning classification. Fort Riley noise zone. So Fort Riley, when we do our land use planning on finding a lot in Riley County, is a big topic. Fort Riley, understandably, for a lot of different reasons that we don't necessarily need to go into. But I wanted to talk just briefly about the noise zones. So you are familiar with our joint land use study that was done several years back and has been updated since. The jurisdictions in, in Riley County, kind of in and around the Fort area, the Flint Hills area, basically, got together and put together this report. I'm really, really oversimplifying it, but we have this report that we all kind of work under. And through that, we have these noise zones that came out of it. And so we have 4 different noise zones. And there are 2 that you can still basically develop in with a lot of caveats. No restrictions necessarily, not from Riley County, but caveats. If you want to develop within noise zone 3 or noise zone 2, noise zone 2 or the land use planning zone, you can do that. We do not restrict you developing in those 2 zones. We notify you, there are certain requirements, there are certain, I should say requirements, there's certain recommendations in terms of how your home might be constructed, notifications for, hey, are you aware that you're building your home in a noise zone? Those sorts of things. But Fort Riley nor Riley County prohibit building in noise zone 2 and the land use planning zone. Noise zone 3 is completely on post, so that's not something that we would even be impacted by in the county where you can develop. So that's completely on post. Noise zone 2, there's a little bit that comes off of post, so we might get some development in there, nothing high density by any means. It's kind of more along the Riley area. And then of course, the land use planning zone extends quite far off post. And so of course, we get a lot of homes or whatnot in that area. But there is a misunderstanding that Fort Riley can tell us as in planning and development, that you need to deny that, or we're denying that, or you can't build there, that kind of thing. Now, we notify Fort Riley when we do get a development proposal, we have an agreement, all of the jurisdictions around do, that we will notify Fort Riley so they have the opportunity to provide comment. They can say, we recommend you do not develop here, but they can't say that you cannot develop on that piece of property. That would still be a determination made by planning and development. We would deny based on some reason. It's not going to have to do with the noise zones. So we're going to notify you. We're going to recommend, hey, you might want to consider this type of construction, that sort of thing. But we're not going to deny you building in a noise zone simply because you're in a noise zone. So, and again, that's very oversimplified. So if you have any questions about that, probably would be good to have maybe time set aside that we talk specifically about that. Excuse me, but that was one of the big things we heard from the community meeting the other night, just about the limitations Fort Riley puts on Riley County, and people can't develop just because they're in a noise zone or just because Fort Riley is there. I think that's really just not the case. So.
One of the things that brought up, they said that those noise zones are listed on the deeds for the property. Is that correct?
They are. They're not listed on the deeds. They're going to be, I believe, in the title. They're going to be on the plat, that kind of thing. Again, that's all about the notification, making sure people are aware you're buying a home, or you're building a home, or you're buying a piece of property that's within the noise planning zone. So that is something that we do. We want to make sure we notify people so they are aware of it.
There's somebody was saying it's listed on the deed.
I don't think it's on the deed.
Didn't know, but
I'd have to double check.
I need to ask Amy on that, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I know, I've seen the notification, I know Riley, the city of Riley, notification, it's obviously,
Right.
you know, right next door.
Right, yeah. Exactly, so.
So,
yes.
so let me ask you, you're saying notification, do you notify potential buyers? How do you do that? Through the real estate companies?
So, yeah, so we don't do that, of course, because
I didn't
we
think
don't
so.
know when people are buying, but that's where when we do a plat, we want to have some sort of notation or some sort of information on the plat when it gets recorded, so people are aware of that. Now, we still can't control if people do the research and what their real estate agent might tell them. But, we get the information out there the best we can, because of course, we don't really know when somebody buys a piece of property.
Yeah.
We only know when somebody wants to come build a house or split or do something like that, when they need to do something through our office, we can, have that secondary notification, but. So,
Yeah, people really don't know unless they ask. They're a realtor or seller, right?
I think the answer is our staff does, of course, if it's new, if
Yeah.
they're going through the process, but realtors on a resale do not
They won't.
typically.
exactly.
Except I thought in the city of Riley had talked about, I don't know if they're supposed to, anything sold in Riley, there's a sheet saying, kind of like the other warnings that are on it.
Yeah.
I don't know that it ever got implemented or not.
Well, and even if it did, the policing to be sure it gets done.
Right, yeah.
Because I've heard comments from various people who bought places and didn't realize
Yeah.
it, so it's kind of.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things that education is very important to be aware that you're buying it, so, because it can be impactful to the person, of course, so. Any more questions on noise zones, or again, I'm happy to talk about these with you folks separate, or have a separate time where we talk about them at one of your meetings. There is a lot to it. I just kind of wanted to try to cover it quickly, just because there were a lot of questions about it. Just want to make people aware that we notify the best we can, but it's also not prohibition. You can still build in the noise zones. Again, there might be some strong recommendations on certain things, but there's no prohibition to building within noise zone 2 if you use brand zone. So just moving on real quick. So just a couple other, I know I'm kind of long time, just a couple other things we heard a lot at this meeting, and we heard it at other times, and a lot of people just commented on feeling unheard and that nothing will be done, or maybe has been done in the past with their comments. Common concern, definitely, that I don't want to, reduce by any means. It is an important comment. So I just keep saying, and I want to just make sure people are aware, people just need to keep giving us their comments, even if they're just terrible, negative comments, that's okay. We want to hear everything people have to say, because if I don't hear from you, whether it's negative or positive, I'm not going to be able to consider that as we're working on our comp plan update. The only input I can consider is the input I receive, whether it's negative or positive or whatnot. So just really, really encourage people to talk to us and let us know what's happening, and we can do our best with that. Comprehensive plan versus regulations. One big thing is the comprehensive plan is a guiding document. It is not regulations. The regulations is how the comprehensive plan is carried out. So likely, because we are having a comprehensive plan update, we're going to have to do a regulation update, because the regulations need to support the comprehensive plan. So if there's going to be enough changes in the goals and objectives and whatnot, we want to make sure our regulations follow suit. So that would be a separate process. I know there's a little bit of confusion there. And that is a separate public process. So that's, of course, goes to the Raleigh County Planning Board. It comes to you folks, all in public meeting, public discussion. Complaints about the agricultural exemption process. People feel that's onerous and a little too much to go through. The point of that is to help protect agriculture, right? If somebody wants to have a house on an agriculturally zoned piece of property, the point is to preserve ag. So why do you need to have that house there? If you have a bona fide agricultural operation that requires you living on site because you need to take care of cattle, or you need to do something where it's really important that you are on site, and that happens often. We just asked for some documentation showing us your agricultural operation is in operation. You have a business plan, they're going to create one, and a statement as to why you need to be on site, basically. And we have an application, there's no fee. And it's generally a fairly quick turnaround. We have a couple of our planning board members and all of planning and development staff that review these and turn these around. Again, I know, it's just another process that people don't often like to do, but the whole intent of it is to preserve ag and make sure that you need to have that house in the ag zone. There's a few other things, but I know I'm out of time, so I don't want to belabor anything, but any questions? Or anything that you would like me to maybe schedule some time and come back to specifically talk about? Because there's a lot.
Yes, yes, and yes, but
Okay.
that's not for sure just yet.
Absolutely.
I think there's a lot of things we're gonna have to work through here, and I'm working through that at the moment, so I'll get with you.
Okay.
Kind of-
Sounds good.
The ag exemption discussions. On one hand, they don't want a lot of people moving into there, but by the same token, they want to build whatever they want on their property.
Yeah.
And there's, same people
They want-
saying exactly, saying, well, I don't want to make a bunch of people living out here, but if I want to build a house, I want. And that's the regulations trying to get between there is a
Yeah.
challenge.
We also want things that benefit and bring taxes down and do all those things, but we don't want those things in our own backyard.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, and their kids, they want the kids to come back and then they, want a house there with the kids from farm. I mean, is that, that's kind
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of juggling between a lot, trying to keep the guidelines between there, what people want. What they want other people to want, what they want.
Right.
It's not always the same.
Try to keep it as fair as we can, as even as we can. Obviously, unfortunately, we can. We can't do it all. Just do our best.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Next, commissioners, you have John Ellerman is up.
Morning Commission, John Ellerman, Public Works. A couple of things on the agenda today. First is to ask to advertise to refill a custodial one worker position. Recent opening and need to fill it. Full-time position, budgeted position. And this is definitely need to fill that. We run short. We kind of slide off on some things just to make up.
What are the duties and responsibilities for that particular position, John?
Should be.
it's in there,
Did I miss that?
Yeah, job descriptions on
it's
there,
right after that.
right after Amanda's.
Clean, dust,
John's.
trash.
I mean, where?
This
Where?
position will be.
Oh,
at
the building?
Public
Oh,
Works.
yeah. Oh, yes, sorry.
Public Works Complex,
Okay.
transfer station, and I believe it hits a museum once we get to for
Okay.
occasion.
Sorry, John. I thought you meant what?
Yeah, that's what I was asking you.
Where? Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't put that right in the job description, so we can put that in the narrative next time. That makes sense when we have the same position.
Well, me, it says they have certain responsibilities.
And it
amongst the
does
complex.
open it up to maybe rotating people around.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is probably what you're gonna have to do in the meantime.
I'd move to approve Public Works advertised to hire the open custodial worker one position.
I second that.
Been moved and seconded to put out the job description for the custodial one position in Public Works. All those in favor?
Aye.
All three sign, please.
He's definitely talking to himself.
Yeah,
Yes, I'm sorry.
this computer isn't, it's just not responding. I'm sorry. I was trying to pull up the job description and it's just,
I'm having trouble with pens, you're having trouble.
When he's talking to himself, don't interrupt.
yeah,
I
no.
mean, both the Johns are out here talking to themselves, so.
If I start answering to myself, just vacate the room.
So, Mr. Ford, would you like me to send it to you? Do you want the job?
No, I was just trying to look at it in
Sure.
real time and I just,
Yeah, it's all the basics that you would expect for the custodial ones, but I'm more than happy to send it to you too. Or, print it out if the computer's not a good option.
every now and again, it
I
just
know.
locks it. Is it something right now? Whatever. No, we're good. Thank you.
So the next topic is Route Water District Water Tower. The request to site the water tower at Public Works facilities. The map here shows you the three locations they would like to put them on. The top two there right next to highway. The original location was the one in front of the Noxious Weed, or not, the Parks and Ambulance Station here building. The other option, I think they prefer either one of these two, since it's right up next to their water main. This one will take out some parking lot for the trucks. If that were the one that you prefer, we can probably extend the parking lot further to the south. If we have to, just to make access to them. That parking lot is used quite often. And then the third location is down here behind the fence line. And probably between the two windmills, you have the windmill here. And I think a radio tower down here. This will cost them a little bit more in running some pipe down to the main line, but it also keeps it back behind the existing fence line use, the property we're using. I do have a request for them to draft an agreement with the county to cite that there. And when that comes up, or Clancy and I get to review it, then we'll send that to you for approval. And Russell here has made some suggestions already about what to ask them for as we go along. Whether we could get them or not. One would be fire hydrants along the shop area. Well, that's not something they usually do, but if we can get those, they may help with our insurance costs. And the other one would be maybe locating radio antennas if we need to on the top, or have some reservation spots for our equipment if we would happen to have the need in the future.
I don't think it hurts to ask.
Yeah.
I first liked the one, option 2, but when I'm thinking about option 3, I kind of like that better. And I look at it this morning, because it's out of, especially if you put radio towers on it, it is kind of an eyesore on the people going by the highway, going on the highway. So it's not an eyesore, but it's a huge thing. Yeah. But I kind of like 3 now, but I could do either one. Even the parking lot where it is good.
But if we did do the one in a parking lot, can they pay for us having to extend that parking lot?
It's an ask.
That would be my thing. If we're gonna have to do it, they should.
They, as of right now, have offered a $10,000 one-time $10,000 payment for the use of the tower. But that was what they were offering to anybody there as they went down the line. So these could be things that we could add to and ask.
Because like I said, it is. I mean, by it all the time, there's trucks there all the time. That was some that, look at GIS, and whenever that was taken, that thing, it was full that day.
Yeah.
They took,
I've been watching it too since we've had that discussion.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
there's at least 3 of them on this picture.
I see that, I know. Go ahead, Rich.
Well, I just think long-term, the county will never use the space in option number 2. There's potential future use for both areas in option 1 and 3 for future development out there. And,
I definitely.
parking,
Yeah.
if we do build a fairgrounds or whatever out there, parking's always a premium. And that green space, although I know whoever's in front of that building may not like it, I mean, it's never going to get used for nothing else. You're never going to put another building there. You're never going to probably put a parking lot there. It's the one space that'll potentially never be used in the future. and make them paint it like Wamigos and it'll look pretty.
Cute. It's really, then you really.
They got
notice it.
national attention.
Yeah, you get a lot of attention then.
That parking lot is heavily used though. And it's a regular place for buses and a lot of families picking up and dropping off kids and
I've seen the families, I've seen actually picking up soldiers.
Mhm.
Because more often than, or more than I thought, maybe once a month or so, there's cars waiting for, I think, soldiers coming or school will get loud.
Mhm.
Is there a bus stop close to that? I know there's the HEA right next to it, but is there a bus stop close to that?
No.
Not for the ad bus, but just
Yeah.
used by school buses.
School buses or something.
Mhm. Yeah, full-size school buses, yeah. Use that a lot.
And soldiers would be,
Yeah, I didn't know about the soldier
Yeah, I've
thing.
seen that a couple of times. Seemed like a smaller bus from the border coming in.
oh,
Just on your standard
I
days.
also think for future maintenance, it's better to have it closer to the actual 8-inch water line as well,
Yeah.
so. When I still see this area as a need for county infrastructure at some point in time. 20-something years down the road, we're gonna have to add an extra building for public works, add something for fire, add something for EMS in this location. I see it. Having all that space down there, I think is gonna be a necessity. So.
Like I say, beyond our lifetime, it'll be used
Yeah.
for something for the county.
So I'd rather keep this option up front where it's close and a little bit more serviceable. Um. I've been kind of leaning towards number 2 on this. That's just fine. They don't have to worry about the parking lot and. I like the idea on the fire hydrants and. The extra hookups there for radio as well. If when that time comes.
With 10,000, cover what you need to expand that parking lot.
No.
I don't think that can cover the moving gravel.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I just think put on 2 though. If we need, because we're gonna have to do that. It shouldn't cost us.
Yeah.
Mhm. That'd be all their cost.
Yeah.
On option 2.
Well, okay,
yeah,
so
option one.
the way this map's laid out is this is option 1,
Right,
Mhm.
okay, option 2.
right.
Okay.
We're
Oh,
talking
option one.
option.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. I had wanted to twist it in my head. Like
That's hard to see it on there.
I looked at it, but just hadn't recorded yet.
Well,
Yeah,
they
it's on-
switched
it's online.
options up on me, that's from, that was, number 2 was their original ask. Is that
Uh-huh.
the case?
And we asked, could it go a little bit more west, because we didn't think it
Right.
would look good in that location, but. Looking at the logistics of moving parking lots and everything else and costs, still think. Now. What we're considering option 2 seems to be the best option, I think, in the short term and the long term from what I'm visualizing.
So do you know how they confirmed with the power company that wouldn't be in the power company's easement with that high voltage transmission line?
I don't know if they discussed that with you.
It's possible they can't, I don't know, I'm just totally speculating, it's possible they can't put it that close to that. Transmission. Yeah, I don't know.
Which would be the same with 1 or 2 probably.
Yeah.
It runs parallel right there.
I would assume their engineers have looked at that, but you know what happens when you're
It
saying.
is, yeah. It isn't obvious from the aerial, but power lines right there.
Yeah, it is. Oh,
Power and water together, it's not a big deal.
Right.
We'll all work out.
And metal and a
That's a
metal.
work part of the
Yeah.
metal and the.
Oh, it works.
It never, wind never blows there.
Right. It never blows those lines over.
And we never have tornadoes or anything come through that area. It's all good.
And then I would emphasize on that fire hydrant, I bet, I can't guarantee this, but if you look at it over 20 years, I'll bet it'd save us well more than 10,000
Yeah,
on insurance premiums if we had a fire hydrant on our pump.
yeah.
Yeah, I know they're pretty strong against that, but I kind of think we're in the driver's seat right now.
I,
Getting some things, and now's the time to get them.
Yeah.
Both of them.
and we're not asking to put them throughout the county, we're asking for one on that.
Right.
And being next to the tower, it's gonna have good water
Mhm,
pressure.
mhm.
And that's if we ever actually need to use it.
Right.
And on one hand, I understand setting that in front of one of our existing buildings,
Ideally.
but it's not, it's industrial buildings up in England.
Mhm.
At least in that courthouse building, it's on the buildings. But actually, I think it's be one or two, because we don't want it out. It's in the what plans might be farther out there.
We kind of already did that with windmills and look where we're at. I won't get started on that, but still.
Well, I told him we need to
Have to take those down, yeah.
have that part of our contract.
Yeah, we do need to throw that in there.
It's only probably viable if it's on number 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll deal with that one some other
Obviously,
ways.
they're gonna have a big crew there.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, that was one thing Mother Nature could take care of for us in 21.
Yeah.
Or 22 or whatever it was.
We got a crew.
Windstorm would take it.
Yeah,
We have a crew that could.
of all ironies.
I made the wrong numbers. Originally, I was looking at one, but I really think two might be the place to do it, just to keep it out of future way. And out of that parking lot that doesn't get used.
I've never been against that location. I mean, if it was in front of the office, maybe. But there's really not a whole lot of people here that
Yeah,
are there all day. They're typically, except for David's crew. I don't know how often they can see out that front window anyway.
They see out the front window, but it isn't gonna matter to me at all.
well, have paint a big picture of an ambulance on
There
it.
you go, there you go.
We'll be all right.
So, I mean, that doesn't, it's out of the way, it's in front of our building, but like I said, that crew should be out working instead of in there.
Right.
Well, 90% of the time, that it should be an issue.
I'd say just. Like Russell said, power line, but that's their, they need to make sure they're.
I think there's enough room there, there'll be an out of power line easement for sure. And even setback, I could see it maybe instead of the red dot where it's at, maybe further south.
Right.
Farther.
Still within that 200 by 200 easement they're asking.
Okay. Yeah, I say number 2.
Yeah, go to,
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Can I get a motion, commissioners?
We want to make sure that they put hydrants on it, though. Add it to the-
yeah. Motion. Yeah, okay, I've moved to approve option 2 for the location of the water district tower. On county property of Public Works, and also requirement to install a fire hydrant.
I would second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve option 2 for the location of rural water district number 1 water tower on county property and location of the public works facility with the addition of a fire hydrant. That's said location. All in favor?
And tower hookups,
Oh, and people,
antenna hookups, sorry.
and allow it and hookups if we need.
Thanks, John.
Okay, thanks, John.
Next,
We got about
oh, you got him? Next, Commissioners, you have David Adams at 10:25.
You're not gonna cancel me again, right?
No, and I'm sorry for doing that
You're
last
fine.
Monday.
I had sent Rich a text.
I got things I need to do.
Yeah. Wait till next Monday and the following Monday, and then the following Monday we won't be here, so we'll do it
That
on
is
that
when
day.
my next update is
Okay.
President's Day, so I'm gonna move that one as well.
Well, you
So see, you're just practicing
all
for
the
what's
same.
gonna happen already.
Yeah.
See? We got your back, David.
Maybe 6 months.
Yeah, absolutely. I can come in once every 6 months, maybe an update for the previous 6 months.
We'll make the math really, really challenging.
There you go.
the numbers will look good.
Wow.
What-
Yeah.
Yeah.
7,000 calls.
You know, I can make a call.
Yeah, I appreciate it if you can sit over there. I can't be my pants. Just here when they need him, but when he's coming great class in case of emergency. Thanks. I have to get help. I don't need
Nice to see that sun out.
They always have it, 'cause it's supposed to be rainy this weekend.
Well, after last year, I'm not gonna chase rain away.
No.
Get the 57 today.
Yeah, I heard some predictions of 60.
Dry it up a little bit. It'll pop.
We did the water warmers, we go fishing.
Not a bad idea.
They're still out there. You just gotta fish a little deeper.
Yeah, but then I get cold and. And at my age, Rich, I can't get cold.
Yeah.
Ready, Commissioner? Go ahead, David.
Morning, Commissioners. David Adams, CMS Ambulance Director with my December updates. Starting off, calls for service, we had 412, which is typical. I think in the last few years has been right in that number. The breakdown of calls, 117 out of Station 1, 113 out of the Station 11 points. Medic 31 had 72, Medic 41 at the airport had 76. This is the first time, I went back and looked, this is the first time where Station 4 at the airport had more calls than Station 3 out at Public Works. And that's directly related to Station 5 being open, and they had 25 calls. But it's pretty much directly related to that.
Yeah, they had a lot more enplanements here over the fall since the airport reopened. They had
We've had a couple calls out there, we generally don't have very many.
at the airport
Yeah,
itself.
at the airport. Yeah, we've had a couple just in the last month, just illnesses from persons either waiting to get on an airplane or as they were coming off. But yeah, that's not a place we see a lot of calls. So I think one of them, what we saw here just recently was due to the ice.
Oh,
So
gotcha.
that's a big parking lot. They do the best they can, but
They would respond to emergencies out on K-18 if necessary too, right?
yeah, we're all the way to the county line.
Okay.
So, yes. Working on new building construction related topics. The building committee met on the 17th. And we're getting closer to bringing you a final budget. Numbers look really good. We made a couple little tweaks, but they were very minor. But we should be hopefully, my plan was to reach out to them this week. Haven't heard from VHS. They've asked some questions and such and getting those answered, but I would expect mid-February or so, we should be in front of you with some final numbers, would be my expectation. We did do the neighborhood meeting on the 22nd. We had one person from the public show up, asked very good applicable questions. They asked about water runoff and if it was going to affect the Tecumseh right there, and if how that was going to be handled, and Kyle did a very good job of explaining how holding the water and slowly releasing it. And then they asked about traffic, if there was going to be any increase in traffic in the area. And once we're moved out and emergency management role fire moves into their office, we an increase of about 5 vehicles a day. But it's just a short route right there into the current EMS parking. So, but very, very good questions. Just wanted to come see it and ask. So, but we knew there wasn't going to be a big turnout. This really isn't a controversial topic. This is we're staying in the same neighborhood as the ambulance service is moving into a facility that will meet their needs. So
I was surprised by the list of how many rentals.
it's a tremendous amount of rentals.
Yeah, there is. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was.
But it was, and I know across the road, because that's 200 feet, so I'm sure across the platform, I mean, I know those are all, but even along the.
Along to Tecumseh, yeah, and as I drive it several times a day, every day, you can just see the students are coming out of the houses going, and the cars that are parked there, and they're looking at their tags. You can see that they're out of county.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a tremendous amount of those properties. were rented.
Yeah, I think if you
List of all owners and most of them weren't there.
Yeah,
if you walk up and down those three east-west streets there during the school day, it becomes very clear very fast.
Yeah. So we did expect a big turnout, and that was accurate. So that you never know until you do it.
Right.
So, but Kyle Morrison from Park Images has turned in all his paperwork to the city, and so that's moving along. So I believe the next task there is going in front of the planning board. And then once the planning board's done, then it goes in front of the commission. So that don't expect any hiccups there. The city, all the city staff have up to this point have signed off on everything. So, and again, we're moving it, just a few hundred feet, staying in the same property and such. So don't anticipate many hiccups there. Josh and I are still participating in the mental health working group in the task force. And still participating in it is now the substance abuse working group and substance abuse task force. So, and they changed it back to the original to align with the national. That's what the national groups and the national standard is. So, we've received the first of 2 new ambulances. The radios have been installed and its equipment's in. It's been, once we put all the equipment in the truck and then we take it for alignment because of the weight on it. And so the alignment's been done. It's up at the county shops getting its final inspection and it should be online. So what slowed us down a little bit is KCOM to install the radios and the camera system. So, but I'm participating in the personnel policy manual work group. So that's just about wrapped up, I believe, go to department heads. So one of the asks of our department was if we could put on like a bi-monthly or a monthly hands-only CPR stop bleeding training for county staff. So Josh will be working on that. It'll be just an hour-long training to be held. I think it's going to depend on where the majority of the people, whether it's upstairs at the county office building or if it's at Public Works or the FCRC. That's a good positive thing for the county staff and the public at large. So he's working on that and we should be seeing something soon.
Thought there was one scheduled. February.
Yeah, there may be.
Oh, I think I saw that. There's one like the
Okay.
13th or something of February.
Well, and then this is not for a certification. This is
Right.
But
Yeah.
then there's also some classes out there like in the health department that does certification classes.
I think that's what
That may be what you're seeing, yeah. So
excuse me.
just about done with the system migration to the new report writing software. Anytime you go with the new system, and as we got to the end of the year, learning how it operates, because when it used to be with our reports, for the stations, you'd say, okay, put in the reports pulled from line 1 of this section. Well, now that is line 5. So you run the report, go, oh, it's not working, then you have to go back and figure out why. So, but we're getting there. Assistant Director Herring, Lieutenant Spillman attended a 2-day leadership conference in Hutchinson, sponsored by Reno County EMS and Kansas City MES Association. They got a lot of good information out of it. And then we had 12 event standbys, and they were all K-State related basketball, I believe. So we'll start to get into, as it starts to warm up, we'll get into some track and field. I think that's coming. And then some, I believe, probably soccer as well. So continue with 100% review of all calls, review the data metrics, and identifying some trends. I believe he's out of a meeting with Josh and Alex in the morning. I think they've identified 1 or 2 things that they want to address. So training calendar is out for our staff, and we got some equipment updates that we purchased some equipment, and with that comes training with our staff. So they're working on that, doing those on shift. I think they're about done with all of them. You can never do all of them one shift in one day because calls, they have to leave for an hour or 3 hours on a transfer or whatever. So but, they're getting those wrapped up. And then the only community outreach we've had is the car seat chat lanes. Once warmer weather gets here, we'll start doing more demos, public events. Breakdown responses by day of the week. So really nothing jumped out there for me. You can see Fridays we were busy, but Saturdays we dropped off. It's directly related to the weather. People were staying indoors. College students weren't here. Things like that. So breakdown by the hours. Again, you see kind of drops off. So
I can't really tell the college students weren't here.
Yep.
I think you can really tell.
So our crews notice it too, So,
Enjoy the break.
yeah, exactly. And then that break is over. As I looked at my phone this morning, it's, yeah, end of the break. So, the top 5 EMS responses, falls were up a little higher, which is, kind of goes right along with the weather. So, and then transfers have kind of ebbed and flowed. We've been as high as 63, been as low as 40. So those are just, I think we see increase in out of town transfers right before the holidays. So, because physicians going on vacation as well. So we see them. It's something that's always been there and will probably always be there. But so, do you have any questions for me? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Brittany Phillips at 10:40.
Just wait till you meet.
I don't know what this is because I can't read it. You magnify glass.
Yes, it's sure.
Run out of my.
He just wants to be educated.
Yeah. Sure that. It's not worth that.
How many more new facilities do you need?
Me?
Yeah,
How many what?
more new facilities do you need?
Yeah, I can come up with something. I can come up with something. Just because I don't need any doesn't, I shouldn't be involved in accounting.
Shiloh, it's parked behind you at the women's team. Recognize the tag. Oh, it's didn't recognize the vehicle, but knew they had.
Yeah. Over meeting. Great.
That's Corey's idea.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think I would get it wrong. That's when the safe drops out of the upper. Yeah.
Right,
You've seen Warner Brothers. but-
that's why you told me to sit here.
That would be a smart move, Shiloh.
Hey, Brittany.
Good morning, commissioners and everyone. Brittany Phillips, Budget and Finance Officer. Just a reminder, we are here this morning to talk about facilities, and this was brought up a few months ago in regard to, the strategic planning retreat with facilities, personnel, and I believe it was the vision statement for Riley County. So this is just really the first step because facilities is a big part of that plan. So over the past 20 years, this has definitely been a hot topic. And if you've gone back through the minutes, you can definitely see that this has been talked about a lot. So in 2012, there was a space study analysis conducted. And it was determined that even with the purchase of the church, there was still a shortage of space, even if we did remodel the church completely. So the main thing we want to talk about today are the three financing options. So one would be cash, which would come from the capital improvements fund, which would impact additional spending for future projects. The second option would be to bond it out. Anything over $300,000 would require an election. Or the Public Building Commission, which per KSA 12-1757 to 12-1768, a county is authorized to create a separate municipal corporation known as a Public Building Commission. A PBC may issue revenue bonds to finance public building construction and improvements. I did mention in here that back in 2012, projected costs were over $25 million to do a whole new administrative building, or to find additional space and modernize current offices. It was projected to cost over $17 million, which today we can imagine that would probably be significantly larger.
That the numbers you got number used was $200 a square foot.
Mhm.
The new EMS building is $600.
And remodeling is about $450.
I'm just saying, cost probably triple since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which changes the numbers we're looking at considerably.
Which we know.
I will say, on the
We weren't
EMS,
projecting these
that number is
numbers.
More specialized number for some of the things that goes in, but
Certain
I think you're
parts,
looking at
but it's-
easy $40 million. Easy. That's an easy number. Yeah, that's more than probably right.
50 or 60 at least.
It's another $2 million.
Yeah, I mean, you're tripling it. I mean, that's about.
And what I'm just saying is those kind of numbers out of capital improvement doesn't work.
Right.
Well,
Makes it
no, but the
30-year
intent
project.
today is just let.
No, I know,
commissioners the-
I'm just saying that's obviously not an option. In 50 or 60 million, it's not gonna, you can't trickle it out of there
Well, that's,
over 20 or
50 years.
another 20 or 30 years to get that.
Yeah.
we've never really sat down and, we never did agree to do a retreat.
Yeah.
But we do have among the three of us a lot of experience in construction. Or I think we could at least do some initial planning, on whether our most critical needs. As far as the courts are really critical. I mean, they're really in a serious position, and they were in 2012. And then, you've got, we've got Potter's Hall to deal with over there. That's a pretty critical issue for events and the public. But at least with those two, we ought to be able to do some things, among ourselves just to get started and save some of the costs and develop consultants.
We're not willing to fund it.
Yeah.
Unless we're willing to fund it, it doesn't quite do all this. That's why my brother said,
Yeah.
unless we know, we can do a whole bunch of study, we go, we don't have any way to pay for it, then it's just another stack of paper like
I
this.
know, yeah. Which back in November, Commissioner Ford said it was worthless paper, so,
To me, it kind of, I don't say we're starting all over, but I mean, it's 12 years old. I mean, I just don't see it happening. I just don't. I've had discussions with people along the broad spectrum, and if we're going to spend $300,000, That's the actual price to do an election for a bond issue for that now.
No,
Oh,
that's,
No, no.
if any facility improvement over $300,000, we have to go to an election.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just not a popular idea. I keep basically getting a no from everybody. I mean, 9 months, yeah, 9 months to go out to a bond issue and then whatever it costs to do the actual
Right. Mhm.
ballot itself, plus
Or
that,
you do it with one of the other elections.
yeah.
Okay.
And it probably would have to be this one.
Public building initiative is not.
It's not an option for me. You can just kick that one out. It's not an option.
Yeah, I don't care for that because it develops a whole non-elected board that.
The other part of it is if it's not a popular item to begin with, you're just working around that and you're shoving it down everybody's throat. I'm sorry, that's just what it is.
Well, but
I understand you get better bonding options and some other things, but it's still lipstick on a pig as far as I'm concerned. And I'm just, you won't sell me on that. You just won't. Sorry.
But I think, I think if you had a plan and people saw what we were doing, an election, I mean, a bond election is the way to go. And I don't know how much, because I don't know financing numbers. If it's a bonding issue, how many years can you go? How many?
We didn't inquire with Greg on that yet. You could do 30, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Of course, that's if you're going ad valorem tax. If you, the state's considering allowing sales tax broader authority for counties considering, but still, they usually limit sales tax much shorter. So, but that's an unknown because it's not currently approved.
Although the other interesting thing on that one is they're gonna allow sunset on that. And your sunset could go, I think they're saying up to 20.
Mhm.
But that's a dead sunset, meaning you can't get to that 20 years and go, well, we're gonna repurpose it. I mean, it's a
Right.
whole
Mhm.
line, 20 years. Right now, sales tax would be a good option. I don't know what it's gonna look like in 20 years. You just don't know on that, but as of right now, you still would technically have that option. You could still go to the state and petition them separately for an item like this for sales tax. Ironically, that's what they're getting sick of counties and local units of government doing, which is really ironic given the circumstances, but which is why they're discussing said option currently. And my guess is they're probably gonna loosen that up. That's something certainly to watch as this election cycle and session goes through, but I don't know what all the stipulations are gonna be at this point in time, so. Go ahead.
Yeah, Commissioner McKinley's exactly right. I mean, that's why we're here today, just to get direction from the board on if you would consider any of these financing options. It's just to tell you, as Greg Varenberg, if he would hear, it's another tool in the tool chest with the Public Building Commission. It's just a legal tool. We're not trying to force it on anyone. We're trying to educate you and those that are watching on what the county's options are. And so these department heads all met at a meeting that I wasn't there and said, we're glad to have a retreat, but we don't want to talk about facilities all day and nothing get done. So if you're not willing to spend any money, let us know and we can develop a retreat on other topics to spend all of our time and not spend money on a professional facility study. I'm sorry. I think we're a big enough organization. We need a professional one. We cannot do it in-house. It's like some other bigger projects and planning that we're doing. It's probably better to have professionals do them outside of us because we don't have our own bias. If I'm going to do it, yeah, the clerk's office needs to be the biggest, trust me, and so we get those outside, yeah, we get those outside sources for that. And so, public building commissions, a lot of people perceive, and it's because they hear it's rammed down their throat. It's not, it's a reverse referendum. You approve it and people can petition to stop it. And so not asking you to agree with it, but that's the truth. The public does have a say in it. And so these are just tools for the board to consider. And if you're not willing to go down any road, then, we can not have the discussion. But I think a lot of these individuals would tell you they need more room. And I would encourage you to call upon them and ask them. The appraiser's office has been jam-packed for, I don't know how long, as well as our office, the conditions we're in. I think the treasurer's office could have a better layout and they have a lot of people in there. Facilities. And the thing is, a lot of our spaces are going to open up somewhat with the new EMS ambulance facility, the transfer of rural fire and emergency management. And so if nothing else, what do you do with your existing buildings? But that doesn't address the courts. The courts has to have, we need some new space somewhere. Potterf, that thing, in my opinion, needs level, but that's up to you to decide. And so what can we do with what we have existing? We're not necessarily saying a new administrative building, but the county needs to decide, are you going to continue to keep this thing? And if so, we need to start sinking some money in this, and that you could do through CIP incrementally
Yeah,
and repurpose some space and
yeah.
replace windows. And so, this always makes boards tense. We're asking for a lot of tax dollars. It's just direction from you on what you guys envision for the county's office space needs. But these people are the ones that work in them every day and can tell you what they're really seeing.
Because neither one of those options that they came up with is what I would do, but, but that's, but again, until we figure out if we're gonna fund it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, don't fund a study if we're not willing to put money towards solving some of the issues.
We should solve some of the issues, the most critical ones, but use what we've got to figure out what we can do with what we've got rather than starting all over with a new building. And that's wonderful, but we don't have the money for that.
So, yeah, I'm not, I'd be very curious, to be honest with you, to see what this would cost at the moment. It's gonna probably shock the ever living hell out of me, but it would be interesting.
Well, just on that,
I'm
if you did nothing more than that, I'm sure the firm that did that could update the dollar figure, and that wouldn't cost a lot to do, not do a study, just say, what would this cost today? And Commissioner McKinley would be.
I think you're probably
right.
Probably $50 million range. That's probably fair, but
But what I want to know, what if you do, say a $50 million 30-year bond, what does that, how much per year is?
We can find that out. We can get that from Greg.
Is that to see what the mill levy, is it gonna be $3 million a year? So that's what, 4 or 5 mils?
We'll get that for you.
And that's some of it you have to put in when you have the election, saying that existing facilities.
And see,
We're gonna vote.
And see, that's what people always vote on in elections. They're always voting on the tax dollar aspect. That's what people don't realize. I've been here a long time. If people could have gone backwards, they would have saved money approving the first election for the LEC at the higher tax dollar amount. It failed, so we cut it down below 10 million for the LEC, the new jail facility. Failed the first time, reduced it down, was full day one. 5 years later, Commissioner Ford had to go in and put an addition onto it. Had it passed the first time, it would have been cheaper. And so
that's another one we've got to add to the list at some point.
And that's exactly right. And I still contend, you, the commissioners, and this group here understands better than anyone, I'm sorry, of what's really needed for facilities. There is a cost to it. There is a cost to it, but you have to decide on whether you're willing to go out there and do that or not. The whole reason Geary County is on this list is because their jail facility failed twice with an election, with all of that cost. And so they said, we have to have it. We formed a public building commission to get it done.
This, I know you just got, and I don't know can you brief on how do you form a public building commission?
Well, we could have Greg come in here. There's a little bit of information on here, but generally when a governing board forms a public building commission, they appoint themselves. So you say it's a non-elected. Well, generally they appoint themselves, and that's what Greg and Mary Carson would tell you happens 90% of the time. So there is recourse for the public, but like I said, if you guys approve it, there is a time period where the public can say, we are so opposed to it, we're going to go out and circulate a petition, and we're going to come in and make you take it to an election rather than authorizing an election up front is how it works with the Public Building Commission in a nutshell, just kind of a Cliff Notes.
Yeah, that's what this.
Well, we still got to spend the money, and that's the thing.
Oh, absolutely. It doesn't make it any cheaper.
It just develops another layer of government, which a lot of people oppose.
Well, but I guess,
It's the same layer.
And I understand what Commissioner Ford says, but here's what gets me is at the same time, Riley County's been the biggest advocate for home rule.
Yeah.
So we have authority to do things on our own.
We don't.
Here's a prime example where you can do it.
But you're not going to sell me.
No one's trying to sell you. I'm just pointing out the facts.
Right. And again, that's what was pointed out from the very beginning. that was what was said, was that it doesn't need to be some giant bureaucracy created. I'm not trying to sell it. I'm just, when you tell me it's another layer, it's the same layer. If a board is acting as the Public Building Commission, that county commission will be held accountable for what's done. That's just a fact. And again, not because you're the ones that still have to decide if you do or don't want to do it. But don't envision it as something that requires 17 more people are going to be involved in a process and you're going to have to deal with all of that. Some of them can be that big. There's one down in Sedgwick County that I think they many years ago created. You wouldn't believe the amount of people that were on it. And it accomplished about that much too, I think, but whatever. So just want to throw that in the mix. That's all.
In the statute, I didn't see anything that talked about a time limit on it, like a sunset time. If you do that kind of a deal, does it go on forever or what?
No, you can structure all that. I mean,
I couldn't see that in
yeah,
there.
there's nothing in there that says it has to last forever. It can't. And it only has, and it doesn't have to. It isn't a sounding board for everybody's bright idea about what they want to do. You know, and we've got a public building commission, let's do it. Usually they're driven by a specific project or a specific need. That's it.
And would that be outlined in the bylaws?
Absolutely. That's a good point. And the bylaws, yes, and if you appointed yourselves, you would create the bylaws saying what you wouldn't do. That's one of the things we did the first time go around, is made sure we built in proposed bylaws for the board's consideration. I'm not complaining about it. I'm just telling you what we did that would have restricted it to one project or two projects. I don't remember what we did, but we also said specifically, I think we restricted what other governmental entities could even approach the Public Building Commission.
You did.
Correct.
Yeah, so
So we've had one before.
no.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
did.
it did.
We did for a
Well-
short period of
Well,
time.
we did. It didn't do anything, but I'm just asking you.
But also keep in mind what this board may want to do may not be the same as another board may want to do, and they can come back in and change. But that's how you get to 17. I'm not saying that's going to happen.
But I'm just saying, you could restrict that.
It wasn't different commissioners.
Correct.
Same ones.
Yeah, I was here. It was within a week.
Following that.
I'd forgotten it
Why?
existed briefly, just
Why?
for a
Because
short.
they had a lot of public input or what?
That's what they said. They had heard enough complaints about it that they wanted to do away with.
Right, which is always your right.
Says
But again, you
something.
can restrict that.
It says a lot.
I was at one of those meetings up in the city of Riley, and it was nasty.
Well, and I would say part of that is because there's some folklore out there about what a public building commission is. And then there's a reality of what it is. Doesn't mean you have to accept it. But it does not require anybody to weigh in on what it's going to do other than those who are members of the Public Building Commission. And you can make that you. I'm not saying you should. Doesn't matter to me which route you go on this. You've got to make those decisions. And yeah, if you did it, yeah, you get some similar objections to it this time. So my advice would be don't do that. Don't create it with an idea of then testing it. If you're going to do it, if you're going to form it, then do it with a view towards this is the policy you're going to take. But don't take it out for circuit riding to decide, because the people that are making those decisions, they've given you the authority to make that decision, quite frankly. And now I will shut it.
Well, we don't have all the department heads here either.
All the department heads were clear at that meeting that I was not at, that let's not spend a whole lot of time on a study. Let's not spend an entire retreat talking about facilities if the board has not come to a consensus on to what level they're willing to fund what and how.
I agree with that. If we can't-
Yeah, that's what you said earlier.
Yeah.
And that's the only,
Funded.
that's the only intended purpose of this today. It isn't trying to sell anyone on any one option. It's just, does the commission want to continue to have further dialogue on this? And if so, then the Budget and Planning Committee will continue to work on the retreat and strategic planning day. And this will be a topic, or it won't be a topic, and we'll find other topics to discuss.
I just don't agree on the retreat.
Yeah, and you guys ultimately decide that too. We haven't decided we're gonna have
Yeah.
it, just if we're gonna have topics, if we're gonna have that day, and so. Discuss this, and then we can find out if the board agrees to have a retreat or not.
Oh. On these options that were given, which I'm sure there's other ones.
No, there are not. That's why we gave these to you. These are your only legal options.
That's the problem. It's restricted.
I mean, there's bake sales. We used to kid about bake sales back in the day, but these are your only legal options for significant amount of money to fund these types of projects.
Well, I would think we should take one project at a time and work on funding that, and then move on to the next one, the most critical needs, and that's the top one. So otherwise, we've got another, not all of us will be here in the next commission. We've got an election coming up. Maybe.
And I believe John Ellerman presented a while ago about having people come out and assess the buildings for their needs. And I think that's really what started this whole conversation. Because at that time it was kind of tabled for us to continue to have these facilities discussions. So maybe we need to.
Well, the board at that time said no, they didn't want to, so.
That's kind of what I need, and I kind of need to know where we're at with actual space at this point in time to get a kind of an idea of what we're really looking at. I mean, one seems still enticing to me. It's gonna take some work and some effort, yes. I think there's gonna be some other avenues besides just capital improvement too, that we're gonna be able to look at. So it's not gonna be just that one, but, yeah.
Well, and there's a lot of, like in this building, there's a lot of wasted space.
Mhm.
A lot. And in all the buildings, there's a lot of wasted space that needs to be looked at. Storage, you look at the museum, they need storage, they need someplace to put things. It's just, there's. But if we take it one at a time and figure it out. Something we can do, we can accomplish.
Go ahead.
Remember, commissioners, said CIP is not an option. I mean, we did the entire shop site, commissioners, with cash on hand.
Yeah.
The entire shop site. That was not a small project even back then. And it was planned out, and we, CIP, unfortunately, for the rest of you department heads, we weren't ordering new ambulances. We weren't ordering new yellow equipment. Other things get put on the wayside. The Public Works Department did all the dirt work and flat work and concrete work. And so there are ways to do things for new facilities. Now, this wouldn't be new, but what I'm saying is you could set aside 2 million a year to accomplish renovations in these facilities and stuff like that. And so remember, I mean, it says it can't be done. And no matter if it's CIP or where, it's all ad valorem taxes.
Yeah.
All of these options are ad valorem taxes. And so the thing with doing cash, of course, you don't have financing and bonding costs. Bonding costs are significant as well. So there are other options to consider, and it has been done here before.
Well, Public Works was a sequence of smaller buildings, we're talking about building one big building, that's what I was saying.
Yeah, for sure.
If we're doing just the remodeling existing, then the CIP might be able to.
And I think that's what Commissioner Ford was talking about when he said, well, there's one of these options I might consider.
And I do think that somewhere in the midst of that, we're gonna have to find some additional space that we're gonna have to purchase, and we're gonna also have to remodel to make it work, because it's not all gonna fit down here in this location, particularly with judicial. I'm gonna have to look at that along the way.
We still own the church over there, and it's got.
We've already said that that's not gonna cover all of it.
Well, no,
Right.
it's not, but it will probably cover the courts if we had it designed correctly.
Then we gotta figure out where to put the rest of it. Not gonna cover both administrative and judicial, particularly if we get another district court, and it's a good likelihood probably over the next 10 years. And they're gonna have to plan for that over the next 10 years in this equation.
Modern court designs, you can't remodel an existing.
Right.
Because they've got the new systems, they've got one place for judges, one place for the jury, one place, now like Barry was saying, everybody comes out of the door in the same place. Well, now, because I've been on a couple of those, they've got a lot of systems behind the scenes to keep people so that everybody isn't walking past each other.
I don't know.
And I don't know how you can remodel an existing.
Well, I heard that
Building.
Fort Riley had a good tradition, but they did. It'd be kind of fun to tour that. I guess they've got to get better to see how they worked it
Oh,
out.
really?
Yeah, over in Fort, they've got it. Probably fairly new.
They separated all their clerk and administrative into one location.
that?
I don't know.
No,
For
I think
Riley.
that's-
Yeah, I don't know. I'm
I
just
think that's
guessing.
just the judicial they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
They probably keep all the court side of it in one, and maybe they took all the administrative and court,
Yeah.
clerk, all the other stuff into a separate location.
We've
and,
got that separated here. It means what-
I don't know. I'm just guessing.
You know, not to address the courts issue, because that's a tough one, you know, with the new building and new space and stuff, but you know, one of the plans was, and I don't think it's in that study, and it might be, but one of the renovations things was that it talked about a third floor connection between the building we're in and this
This one.
building, if you're gonna keep this
Oh,
building, and that's where they were gonna place IT. Because with new floor, they could put all the cabling underneath the floor and everything, and IT's centrally located between these two and a walkway over to this building. Of course, you'd have to get an agreement with McCullough to do it, you know, over their property line. And so there have been other ideas thrown out there with that helps the administrative side, but it does not help the courts. But there's some square footage that could be gained there if it would be allowable.
Yeah. It'd be good to get corrections, you know, secure location would be all coming from here.
Right.
Yeah, just real briefly, since the church was mentioned, if that's the option you go with, just remember, you're gonna need approval from the state in order to do anything.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean it can't be had, okay? And it doesn't mean there's another process too, that if you decide you want to do something with that site, then you simply have to be able to show there's no feasible alternative. And that's different from, you would probably, I'm not saying you would need a space study, but you would need some public hearings to establish that. There's some case law on what that is. And it's not an easy bar to meet, that there's no feasible alternative, but you may have facts here where there might be plenty of things to show.
You're talking about tearing it down or renovating.
Whatever you want to do. You can't renovate, you can't do anything to it without first notifying the state. And the state is.
Just the exterior there.
No. Any kind of construction or renovation, you're gonna have to get approval from the state historic preservation officer. I'm not saying maybe they rubber stamp such things. I don't think so.
No, don't either.
Don't think so. And but the alternative, I don't want to say that's the only thing. If you disagree with that in terms of you don't want to proceed with that way by actually contacting them, that would probably be the best thing first. And then you have a series of, you would really need to present evidence that would stand up in a district court, because anybody can appeal that decision. I mean, it doesn't have to be anybody involved in the original application for designation. It can be a member of the public who says it's not right. You can end up in district court, you can defend it. But you would have to show there was no feasible alternative. That's really the standard to doing whatever it is you decide to do, knock it down, renovate it, whatever you want to do. It's just another hoop you got to jump. I'm just throwing that in so you know, because it's part of the discussion. This is just to give you information.
Even renovating it, you're changing the complexion of the interior of it. So, yeah.
Well, I think anything along the lines of what's ever been thrown out there back to what to do with the site, I think it's going to qualify for something that you're going to need state involvement, at least on the level saying this is what we plan to do. What you don't want to do once it's designated is simply forge ahead. That would be bad. That has some real costs associated with it.
Not real thing, it's not that easy to ask. Give us some permission.
That was
It's
Eileen.
one of those examples where it's not a good idea.
That was Eileen King's favorite saying. No, it's easier to ask for
Beg for
forgiveness. than
forgiveness.
permission.
It could just get really expensive, even more expensive than the gigantic numbers that are being thrown around.
We even have those issues on the fourth floor, the tile up there. We can cover it with limited things, but we can't pull it up. The tile in the hallway and stuff. Yeah, I mean, and this is just a historically contributing building.
So
You
you
go to
could-
that next level because they're having to go through with the windows and everything to get approval.
Oh, well,
Oh,
Yeah. Even on this building.
it's interesting. So you have to cover up the tile in the hallway?
With things that you can pull up and not damage
Not
that
damage.
tile permanently.
is that the original tile up there on the floor?
So what year
What
is
is
it?
on it? Is it?
It's some type of those 12 by 12 squares of some sort.
It's not asbestos, is it?
It could be,
Not
yeah,
if
it
it's
had to be
12,
tested.
not if it's 12.
No,
Asbestos, the 9-inch, they switched.
And
When
I'm
they
not
switched to the VCT, they went to the 12.
I'm not sure if they were the 12 by 12. I didn't measure them, but it just that style of tile, you know?
look at that.
VATs were 9.
But yeah, we can't pull it up or we can't put, you know, a new epoxy floor over it. It has to be carpet or something that can fold up. And if you wanted to save it for another day and reuse it, you can.
Pull it up and save it.
No, you can't pull it up at all. You can only cover it lightly.
Layer a tile on it or something.
No, they wouldn't lay
Not
tile
tile,
over
but you
it.
could maybe do it. Under groove something.
Yeah, something you could pull back up, for sure.
Laminate floor, so.
Slide it over, it's in.
Mhm.
Do we have any further questions about this or any direction that you would really like us to go towards?
The direction seems to be in a circle. Right now.
And you know, we can come back and discuss it further. This,
Yeah.
like I said, these are just the financing options to let you know and think about it. And, you know, once you guys think you're ready to have further discussion and give us direction to, as the budget and planning committee, to start spending time. Well, I guess the next thing is after you guys decide, we need to find out if we have a consensus of 2 or more of you to have a retreat or not, it sounds like. So that'd be a step as well. But we can work on facilities without having a retreat. They don't necessarily go hand in hand if the board wanted to.
I think I'm ready to do a retreat. Other, next week, have more discussion. But that's a,
There's a retreat for facilities without knowledge of where we're going, you know, without.
Right, that's what we don't want to do.
Doesn't.
Mhm.
serve
Agreed.
the Purpose.
That's why we're here.
yeah. Maybe some work session.
Want us to come back on just this issue here in a week or
Which
two for
issue?
you to think about it?
Which issue?
The
Financing.
financing of facilities or,
I'm gonna pretty much be number one on this side. That's what I'm gonna be.
What's number?
Cash,
The what?
cash is number one.
Okay.
But we're gonna have to start getting kind of
One
some
or
specifics.
two.
We're gonna,
I don't like 3, 1 or 2.
it's gonna be hard for me to go for a bond in an election because I just don't think, I don't think it'll pass. We're gonna spend a lot of time, resources. And I think we're gonna get back to square one, and we're gonna be having this conversation, and we're gonna end up having to do number one anyway.
We can't go for election without a plan, something.
Well, agreed, but even if we develop a plan just for improvements, for instance, I just don't, we're gonna get there. That's the conversation, and I've had this dialogue for the better part of 5 years off and on, and
I understand number one, for, there can be another funded remodeling done, but I still think. I'm not sure there's a way to remodel anything for the court.
Right.
Any better, there's just not enough room over there,
um,
especially if they're wanting to add another court someday.
the state statute as it's written currently allows sales tax for courts. You can specifically, without going to the Kansas legislature, you can ask for a sales tax to do courthouse, which would be court-related services. That is on that list.
Okay, I haven't looked at it.
We went through the same process on the road and bridge 2 years ago, and there is a statute in there that does allow for court and judicial without having to petition the Kansas legislature to accomplish that. That is one of those that's specifically,
Is there a year limit on it?
yeah, I think it's 10.
Brittany will check on
It's either
that.
5 or 10. They're all 5 or 10 on there. And I think once again, you have to do point zeros on those or 0.5s.
Mhm.
We argued that on ours on that one too, but
Mhm.
yeah. courthouse, jails, health departments. I mean, there's a couple of actual specific facilities. Courts are one of them. That's something to take into consideration in this discussion too.
Yeah.
If you're wanting to have that dialogue.
Yeah,
Like to
we'll check
look at
on
that.
that.
Yeah.
We'll check on that and report back.
Yeah, see.
We'll give an updated report on, which will still include these, plus if there's
Right.
something in that statutory authority, we'll put it up with Mary Carson and Greg Berenberg and run all that. For sure. What's really interesting is just think is how the current courthouse, I think it was through the early 80s, housed treasurer, clerk, register of deeds, courts and everything for so long.
They're a little busier now.
How many court?
That I do not know.
judges
I've just
were
heard the
there?
stories, early on in my career.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would suggest giving, whatever the time frame is, and just coming back and giving an update on that.
Okay, we can come back in a couple of weeks, if
Okay.
that's okay.
That'll work.
and commissioners, we actually lost some square footage in our building next door because we used to have the appraiser's office in the basement of the building next door. And then, during heavy flood times when water was squirting out of the basement walls, we decided that wasn't real good.
Running water.
Well, that was on the paper in there.
Don't tell Catherine.
We talk about, you talk about 50 years from now. I mean, I have a hard time trying to think that far ahead. I guess maybe it's because 50 years ago I wasn't here and it's hard to think
Well,
that
you
far
can't.
ahead, but
Plan for. 50.
right. And I think 50 years from now, particularly on the customer service side of things, that it may be obsolete at that point in time. So, that type of space may or may not be needed. So, but I do think as we, well, I'm thinking, in terms of how we progress in this facilities and space discussion needs to be 12 years anyway. I mean, if we're gonna do comprehensive and strategic planning in a decade, 8 year sense before coming back and reviewing it, you need to go out at least that long, maybe a little bit longer, but there's some of our departments, probably including judicial, where space is going to be necessary way beyond that. So, I mean,
Yeah.
those are all things that you have to look at and consider along the way, even in the short term, regardless of which one of these options
Well,
is indeed the option.
if you remember when we had the discussion on the EMS building, we wanted to plan for, and it was too expensive to even do that. So we talked about that a lot. Yeah, so.
I think another thing we should be looking at too is what available space and or buildings are available in the downtown sector at this point in time too.
Only the downtown sector.
No,
Wherever, I guess.
well, we've got the land up by the county shops too, and we've got that. That's not that far out of town anymore.
We need to move these offices out there.
I'm in favor of an office out there.
I'm not.
Wait a minute.
Far out there, I mean,
It's a couple miles. To be totally honest with you, I wouldn't leave that I would take that option off the table.
we've
either.
got that, it's.
But the thing is, the commissioners, you get back to, the only way you're gonna do something like that, most likely is a bond issue of some type,
Sure.
Something else, again, with the bond issues, if you can find out
Yeah, we'll find out the
Find out.
terms,
and just get an idea, and just say for a $10 million bond, and then we can adjust.
do the multiplier.
For a $10 million bond, and for that many years, what would it be per year, just to get again, just to have some numbers that we'd understand a little better.
For sure, we'll get it.
Got all that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a little more than $75.
Nobody said it today.
No, not so easily.
We needed some levity at that point.
Yes.
I think we could have, the city has work sessions occasionally,
Yeah.
specifically to one topic, and we might want to think about that.
Yeah.
Well, that's what these are. These are work sessions.
But this is part of our regular agenda, you know.
Well,
something
we
specific.
have work sessions or a regular meeting. We've done work sessions for 15 years. It's
Okay.
just during a regular meeting.
Yeah.
We don't do if you're talking about work sessions behind or pre-meeting, let the counselor address that.
Legislative session.
Legislative
This
sessions.
wasn't here.
Our commission has always preferred to have all of these public discussions at the regularly scheduled meeting for the public to participate.
Which is a real good idea if at least two of you are going to be there.
Okay, thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, well, that was the last item on today's agenda, so unless there's anything else. I don't have anything. Pertinent.
No, except that, well, and I will be undergoing surgery weeks from today, so I'll be out. For what, for, you know, I'll Zoom in, I'm hoping in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
And I know you're gonna be gone, that wasn't on any schedule I looked at.
Oh, no, I'll be
I
gone.
scheduled, so.
Yeah. I will be leaving on the 9th. So I'll be gone on the 12th. I'll be back for the 15th. Of course, we'll all be gone on the 19th, so. Yeah. I'll be in DC on the.
Yeah, I have Catherine being back on the 12th.
Hopefully it's on Zoom,
Nothing
yeah.
else. Mhm.
Can we do Zoom, can we do executive sessions on Zoom?
You're desperate to have an executive session.
Well, no, I mean, if that, it seems to come up.
Well, hold up. My question is, can you have two people on Zoom and one person here in person?
Well, you can actually, what works best that I think, the most secure way to do it is to call in. for an
Right,
executive
correct.
session.
Well, no, I'm just saying for an
For
actual
an actual
meeting.
meeting. For a meeting.
She's saying she's probably gonna be on Zoom on the 12th. I'm gonna be on Zoom on the 12th.
No, you can do that,
Oh,
as long as you have it.
Or Greg can
speakerphone.
take over everything and just make
So
decisions.
I just get one vote. We're gonna get a lot done that
Well,
day.
you didn't realize he wasn't gonna have any audio, but you can call in. He may not pick up the
No, I'm
phone.
not talking executive session. I'm
I
talking.
realize that.
actual meeting.
No, really.
Oh, okay.
You can have that remotely,
Okay.
as long as you've got, as people who come into the meeting could hear it, and so it'll have to be on speakerphone. The person calling it.
Calling in. Well, we've done it on.
We're gonna do it on Zoom.
Video too.
If you're gonna do an executive session, I would say.
No, we're not talking
No,
on the 12th, our actual meeting.
Yes, the meeting, you can have it,
Let's do both on Zoom.
or on the Zoom, yeah.
Okay.
So if you end up with an executive session, I would suggest you leave,
Oh, okay.
whoever's on Zoom, call in.
Call in.
Why don't
Yeah,
we do
did
this?
that
Why don't we
last
not
time.
plan on having any executive sessions on the 12th?
You can plan that.
We're gonna plan on that.
I know, and you're the
Okay.
ones that decide whether
Right.
to have.
Seems like we
No
don't
illusions
have
about
meetings,
that.
so it's-
I just wanted to make it clear if Catherine and I are on Zoom that particular day,
That's
Is
perfect.
that-
Greg's just here by himself, that's okay.
That's perfectly okay.
Unless he doesn't want to be here alone, I don't know.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
And if you don't, that's fine with me too.
So, yeah.
Hopefully I'll be able to do that.
I plan on being here, it's gonna be on Zoom from some random place in Washington DC. I don't know yet.
Sounds good.
The key is just whether anybody who wanted to come in and see it could hear you.
Okay,
Mhm.
Okay.
For sure.
Hear that interact.
Okay.
That's all.
verifies that.
That's all I had.
Yeah. I don't have anything else.
I make a motion to adjourn.
A second.
It's been moved and second to adjourn the January 29th meeting of the Riley County Commission. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, commissioners. Have a good week.